Hi there! In a previous video I created this PHP chatbot using the new GPT-4 API with the function calling capabilities. So I implemented these get current weather, add to cart and get cart contents functions. And then I described them to ChatGPT. So now what I can do is I can open this chatbot and I can ask it, what is the weather like in California? And it will reply to me, the weather in California is nice and sunny. Now this is just a hard-coded thing. So here in the get current weather function, I'm just returning the weather is nice and sunny. So whatever place I ask, it will return this. Now this add to cart function is a bit more cooler. So I can say something like add 10 apples to the shopping cart. And then it will add 10 apples to the shopping cart. I have added 10 apples to your shopping cart. Is there anything else you would like to add? And I can even add multiple things at once. So I can say add 5 pizzas and 10 cans of Coke. And then it will happily add these to the cart. And the cart in this case is this global variable in my PHP script. So in fact I could save this in the session or do something like that. So it's not just that ChatGPT remembers it. It doesn't remember it. It is stored in the actual PHP. So if I say, how many pizzas do I have in the cart? And it will reply, you currently have 5 pizzas in your cart. Can you list all the products in my cart? 1. Apples, quantity 10. 2. Pizza, quantity 5. 3. Coke, quantity 10. So it can actually read the contents of the cart because we have this get cart contents function over here. And it just loops through all the contents in the cart and then it returns it in a JSON format. And this is just a single file made with just raw PHP. And I have this function down here, send message, which actually handles the sending of the message to the OpenAI API and then getting the response back. And then down here I have this terminal chatbot implementation. So it asks the user for a message and then sends to ChatGPT and then creates this chat loop and then checks if the message was a function call, then it runs the function and then sends that result to ChatGPT and then continues the loop. Or if it was a message, then it just shows the message and then asks for another message from the user. But now in today's video, I would like to build a simple library with this. A ChatGPT library that is easy to use and then you could add that to your own project. So I already wrote some code here. This is just the kind of code that I would like to use. So I haven't really implemented anything yet. So here's my idea. We create a new ChatGPT object and we pass in the API key. And then we can use these methods to add different kind of messages to the ChatGPT message history. So we can use sMessage to set the system message, uMessage to set the user message, and fcall to set the call that comes from ChatGPT, and fresult to add the response that we will send to ChatGPT from a function that is run on our server. And then a response method that would give the next message that comes from ChatGPT. And then we could implement something like this, that we can pass not only the API key, but a chat ID. And then we could send a message to a specific conversation. So then it would be easy to implement like separate conversations. And then we can get the response the same way. And then we could do get messages in the same manner. So we could add the chat ID here and then get the messages and it would just list all the messages. And then I had this idea. We could create a save function that you could pass in and then this would be used to save a message of a given chat ID somewhere. So then you could implement that yourself if you want to use a database or if you want to use sessions or a text file or whatever you want. So you could just pass your own function and implement it in your own way, however you want to save the messages. And the same thing for loading the messages. So it would pass the chat ID to the load function and then you could load it from wherever you want. So let's try and do that. Now, I have previously created this GPT-AutoPilot repository on GitHub, which also uses the ChatGPT Function Calling API. And this can create full projects with any programming language. So I would like to test this out now in a real world scenario, and I want to create the user interface for a chatbot with this. And then we can integrate this ChatGPT library into that, so I don't have to code this chat application user interface. So let's see if this is gonna work out. So I will run GPT-AutoPilot and I will say create a PHP chatbot application where you can type in a message which will be sent to a message.php file, and it will save the message to a JSON file. It will also save a response for every message saying thank you for your message. Both of these messages will be saved to the JSON. They will have roles user and assistant. The UI should also have a conversation history selection on the left hand side in a sidebar. The user messages and assistant messages should be listed from the JSON file on the page, and they should be a different color. Add CSS styling to the application so that it looks professional. So let's send this prompt and see what happens. Now it will ask me, do you want GPT to make your prompt better? So let's see if it can make it better, and we will accept it if it is in fact better. Okay, we got a very long prompt. Project title: PHP chatbot application with message handling. Project description: design a PHP web-based chatbot application that features an interactive interface for users to send messages. Okay. The user messages will be saved to a JSON file. Okay. Thank you for your message. The responses should be attributed to the role of assistant. It is crucial to maintain an organized and searchable record of all conversations between users. Okay. To boost legibility and user experience, user messages and assistant messages should be color differentiated. In summary, this project involves building an advanced PHP chatbot application featuring message saving and handling, role attribution, conversation history listing, and professional CSS styling. Yes, I want to use this prompt. So let's build this thing. And now we just sit back and relax and wait for it to create this project. Alright, it has now created something. So let's start a new terminal here and let's cd to our code directory, and let's see, we have CSS folder, PHP folder, and index.php. So let's do phps localhost 8021 and let's open this and see what it came up with. All right, here we have this chatbot application. So this looks actually pretty good. So if I say here hello, then it's actually a text area, so I have to click submit. And nothing happens. But I actually like this UI. So what is going on? Why doesn't it send anything? So there's no form. Is there supposed to be some JavaScript here? There is. Okay. Is there any errors? Perhaps jQuery is not available. It is. It is sending it to the wrong place. Localhost PHP message.php. Okay. Let me do this manually. I will go into here and I will open the code and index.php, and we are going to have here something. We will change here to localhost 8021, and actually I will just do it this way. I will post to /php/message.php. So let's refresh this and let's say hello and submit. Okay, and we actually got the message here. User says hello, assistant says thank you for your message. And if we refresh this, everything disappears. So let's see, do we have some JSON file here? Chathistory.json. We have the chat history here, but we are not loading it on the front page. Chat history. chat file. Okay, the problem here is that it is including it from the wrong directory because it created that stupid PHP directory. So if I do PHP/, then it will actually work. So now we have our messages here. So this is cool. Submit, and it actually works. Wait, does it flip it around? If I say hello to, then this goes to the end, but when I refresh, it flips it around. Okay. Now, this is not exactly what I wanted to do, because I want the conversation history to be the ID of a conversation. But yeah, that's pretty good. We can work with this. Let's actually see. I will copy this and I will paste it here so I will save it. I will create a new folder, chat, and I will paste it in here. So now I have saved it in case it screws it up on the next iteration. So let's continue. This is actually pretty cool. So I will say, move the conversation history from the sidebar to the right side main area, but keep the sidebar. Add a list of conversation IDs to the sidebar instead. Save all of the conversations into separate files. Should I do that? Add the conversation ID to the JSON file. The conversation ID should be saved to the session and generated automatically, unless given by a GET request. Let's do this. All right, we have done something. Let's see what we have done. We have a conversations folder, which is empty. We have still the CSS and we have message and we have the same file still. So let's go here again and we have conversation IDs. And if I say hello and I click submit, it probably screwed up the address again. So I will do that and I will refresh and I will say hello, submit. Okay, user says hello, assistant says thank you for your message. And if I go here, it clears everything. But again, I have to fix this. So conversations / conversation ID.json. So do we have a file here? We do not. Perhaps this put it in the wrong place. So yes, this should be .. Yeah, because after I gave this chatbot the ability to create folders, it really wants to create folders and then it screws up these paths. So let's refresh and say hello and submit. And let's go here again. Now we have the conversation here. And hopefully if I submit something and I refresh, then it is in the same conversation. And then it was in the get parameter, which is convo ID. So if I add here index.php, convo ID is test convo, then it's empty. And then if I say this is a test convo and I submit and I refresh, then now we have test convo in here. Now it would be nice if there were links here, but it's pretty good. Let's not push our luck. So I will now copy this. Let's go here and I will copy the code folder and I will put it in this place and I will call it Chatbot. So now I should have it in my other project here. Okay, we have Chatbot here. So let's now start to implement that ChatGPT library. So let's go to our library folder and I will create here chatgpt.php, in which we will create our ChatGPT class. So let's say class ChatGPT. And what will we have? We will have a public function construct. And this will take a string of the API key and a string of the chat ID. And this can be null because then we will generate it automatically. So let's do that first. Let's say if chat ID is null, then chat ID is unique ID. And let's add more entropy true, just to be sure. And let's set this API key to API key. And let's add, actually we can use promotion here, we can say protected and protected. And then we don't have to do any of this, and I just say this chat ID. All right. What's next? We want to be able to send a message. So let's create public function sMessage, and it will take the string of a system message. And it will say message equals an array which will have a role system and content system message. And it will say this messages add message. And I will create here protected array messages is an empty array. And I will do the same with user message and assistant message. So U message will be user message and A message will be assistant message. Okay, what's next? Fcall. So let's do fcall. Fcall. And this will take function name and string function arguments. And let's do that. And this role will be function call. Wait a minute, is that right? Function call. Let's go to the API reference. It will be a function. Okay, there will be a function. Okay, function call and function. Role function and name and then function call. Not quite sure how this works. I think it will be role function. No, it will be role assistant. This is right. And content will be null. Actually, it can be something other than null too, but let's set it to null right now. And function call will be an object with name, function name and arguments, which will be function arguments. And we will add that to the message. And then what we will have next is the function result. So I call it fResult. fResult, and it will take the function name and the result of the function. So I will in fact copy this one. fResult, function name, function return value. And this will be role function and content will be nothing, I believe. No, content will be the result. Okay, content will be function return value and name will be the function name. So name will be function name. Okay, that is done. Then we have to have the response. So let's create the response. Public function response. And what does this do? It should take all the messages and send them to ChatGPT and then return the result. So this is pretty much the same as the send message function over here. So let's copy this over. So paste it here and I will call it public function response. And it in fact doesn't take any of these things. And I realized that I forgot to plan for the function definitions. So let's figure that out too. But messages will not be messages. It will be these messages. So let's change all of the messages to these messages. But this will not be done this way. I mean, I guess we could do it this way, but I really should use this. Oh yeah, I have to do it this way because I don't know which type it is. So let's do it this way. Fine. Response. So what is the message? The message will be the latest message. So message equals this messages count this messages minus 1. I really want to know how to do this like in a better way. How can I do this in a simpler way? End this. Okay, end. That's good. All right, so we get the latest message, and that is the new message that we are going to send. Wait a minute, no, what am I doing? No. We don't have to do any of this. And we don't have to do this either, because we are calling it with the sMessage function. And we don't have to add this because we add them separately already outside of this. So we only send the current messages to ChatGPT and then return the result. And this will be this API key. And I will do it this way. And functions. this I have to figure out how to do. I'll probably do something like this, get functions. Okay, and then we send the messages, and then we handle the response, and then we return the messages. But I don't want to return the messages anymore. I want to just return the latest message. So I will return end messages. So the last message. And let's implement this public function. Actually, this is going to be protected function, get functions. And it will do something. It has to return this sort of thing. So an array of these things. So let's go back to our plan. So how would we define functions? So we have this kind of thing. So we have a name, we have a description, and we have parameters, type, object, properties. So these are like extra. I don't want this. I will just say parameters. And it will be just an array, and it will be exactly this way. So product, type, and I have an extra array here. I don't need that one. So I'll have name, description, parameters, product, quantity. I will actually call these like name will be product, and then I can get rid of this part and that part, and this name will be quantity. So this is all the information we need for a function. So then we can do something like ChatGPT add function, and we pass in this thing. And then perhaps we want to say function here to pass the actual function. Now I really would like to use like an anonymous function. So I could do like this, and then I would set the things here. So product and quantity. And then I could just implement it this way. So I don't have to create separate functions. So let's do something like this. So we will just have a protected array functions. And then when we add a function, so protected function add function, and this will be the array function data. Then we will say this functions, and we will add the function data. Now we should add some handling to check that the format is right, but let's do it just like this for now. And then when we get the functions, then we should convert this, because now it's not in the same format as in the ChatGPT API, because I want it to be a little bit simpler. So then we have to convert it into that one. So let's copy this again and say this. Functions equals an array. And then for each these functions as function, we are going to say that functions add this one. And the name will be function name, and the description will be function description. And then the properties will be properties, and required will be required. I'll just set all to required for now. So I'll say that properties is an array, and then for each of function parameters, because I call it parameters in my version, as parameter, we will say properties add this kind of thing. Add properties parameter name will equal to this. Type will be the parameter type, and description will be the parameter description. And then the required, I will just add all of them to required. Let's say no, I won't. I will do this. Required is an array, and I will say if property parameter required, then we will add required equals parameter name. So now we can in fact set the required property as well. And I'll set this to if it triple equal false, not triple equal false, so that I have to set it to exactly false so that it will not be required. So by default it's required. Okay. And then I just return the functions. So return functions. So this should return the functions in the ChatGPT format. And this will add a function. And this should be, of course, public. All right. Then we need a call function. So actually in this we are not calling any functions right now. So how do we deal with that? So let's think about this. If we have a function and we say, please add a product to cart, and then we get the response, what do we expect to get from this? We expect to get, I added the product to cart, just a message. So that means I have to implement it here. So I will say that the message equals that, and then return message. But if the message is a function call, then I have to call the function and then send it back to ChatGPT and then get the response and then return that. So I will say that message equals this handle functions message. So I'll pass it in here and then I will do something and I will return the actual message, the final message. So then I will do protected function handle functions, and it will take the array of a message because it is an array. I don't want to pass it in. It will be array, but I really want to have its own type. Whatever, let's say that it's array. And then we have to do exactly this that we do here. So all of this, and I'll paste it in here. And actually it is an object. So I can use std class because JSON decode creates an object, standard class object. So if we have a function call, then we get the function call and we get the function name and the arguments, and then if function is available. So I have to implement this. If this, let's do has function, and I don't have to pass this in there, just the function name, then we will call the function. But I will not call it this way. I will call it like this get function name. And I will call this callable, and this is callable is that. And then it will return the result of that. And otherwise, if there is no function like that, then we return function name unavailable. And we will create the message and send that message to ChatGPT. But now, in fact, we can do this. We can say this f result, and we say function name and result. So we don't have to do this. And instead of calling send message, we just say return this response. And we don't have to save anything because this saves it already. So that's what we are going to do. And I can remove this if statement from here because we are returning. So I don't have to have this extra indentation here. And we are not going to ask for any standard in stuff. We are going to actually just return message. Right, because if we don't want to handle a function call, then we just get the message that came from ChatGPT and we return that. So all of this goes away. And I have to create has function. So let's do that. Protected function has function string function name. And this will just do for each of these functions as function if function name equals function name. Then return true, and here return false if we didn't find anything. And get function. So this will have to do this as well. So get function name. If it is that, then we return the function, which will be a callable thing, and otherwise return false. Now we don't have to have this has function. We can just say callable is that, and if is callable, then we call it. Otherwise we just return function unavailable. Okay, that should work. So do we have something else to do? Messages. We have to get the messages. So let's create that one. So public function messages. and we will just return these messages. Now perhaps there should be a better way. Maybe I should create some message class, but I will not do it right now. And then we have save function and load function. So save function takes a function that takes the message and the chat ID and does something. So let's create that. Let's define here first callable save function. Can I set it protected? Protected. Callable save function is null. And callable load function is null. Can I not do this? I cannot do this, so I will not give it a type at all. And I will set here public function load function callable load function. And it will just set this load function is load function. And save function is going to be the same but save. And then what I will do is when I initiate this thing, I should probably have a load method, public function load. And then this would do the following. It would say this messages equals this load function. And it will pass in this chat ID. And I should say if is callable this load function. Then we do this. And then we have to do the save. Now I want to save it when I add the message. Maybe it would be better to have a separate save function. So then we save all of the messages or not. I'm not sure. Maybe both. Maybe have two different functions so you can do whatever you want. But here when we get the message, then we call the save function. So this will be save function. If it is callable, then we call it save function and we pass in the message. Let's say message is that message, and then we pass in the message. So we save the message to the chat ID. And everything is green now, so I have implemented everything. How much do you want to bet that this doesn't work first try? So let's actually try this. Let's die here and let's get the API key and say something funny. And then we will, I really kind of want to just get it as a string, the response. So I could just say echo response. So I'll do that. Response. No, I can't do that there because I used it in the other place. So I will just do print R for now. And let's run this. We have to require chatgpt.php. And let's close this and let's cd into library and do php plan.php and run this, and we get an error. Error in OpenAI request. Empty is too short. Functions. Because we didn't define any functions. So we have to say fields, and we will set the fields here. Fields is that, and we don't set these, we only set those, and then if is set, or if not empty, this get functions. Then we add these to it, so we say fields functions is that, and fields function call is auto, like that. Now I don't want to call this twice, so I will just say functions is that, and let's run this again. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Second try. So now it works. So let's try our functions then. So now if we want to set a function, we can do something like ChatGPT add function, and we will have to do that whole thing. Now this is not really the best thing, but for now it is what we have to do. So let's define here a function. Well, let's define the add to cart here, and let's do that global cart thing again, and then do just copy it from here. Add to cart, this one, and paste it in here. And let's add another function, which will be nothing here, and we just return something. We return this. Well, I had to pass that param here because the API is a bit weird. So I make this function, the cart is empty or cart contents, and this is going to be called get cart contents. And what did I use as the description here? Get the current products in the shopping cart. And it will just have parameters, and it will be called param, and always set to cart. Now, I might do something like this, like automatically, that it just sends some, if you don't pass any parameters, it will just send some dummy stuff there. I think this is a problem with the API, because it is said that this is optional, but it is not. Or was it? Wait a minute. I did some stupid things with that. Maybe it actually works. But let's do it like this now. So now we should have two functions, and let me copy this system message as well and pass it into sMessage. And then let me say here, add 10 apples to the cart. And then I get the response, and then I say add 5 computers to the cart. And then I will say what is in my cart, and I'll get the response. So let's see if our functions work as well. Undefined array key required. Okay, it is working. I just get some notices. I have added 10 apples to your cart. I have added 5 computers to your cart. The current contents of your cart are apples 10, computers 5. So it works, but I have to fix these problems. This should be equal, and the required should be is set. If it is set and it is not exactly equal to false, then that happens. So let's clear this and let's run this again, and hopefully we don't get any error messages now. I have added 10 apples to your cart. Would you like to add anything else? I have added 5 computers to your cart. Anything else you need? You currently have 10 apples and 5 computers in your cart. Would you like to add or remove any items? So now it works. Now we have created a ChatGPT library in 1 hour and 12 minutes. So next we have to integrate it to this chat application. But that will be a story for another day. So if you want to see that video, then make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss it when I post that one. So if you want to use this library or make improvements to it, I will post it on my GitHub and you can try it out and let me know in the comments if it worked for you. But that's it for today's video, and I will see you in the next one.